Welcome to Forest Alchemy, where love, land, and community converge in a dance of wild creativity.
We're Mike and Allie, forest dwellers and soul partners, sharing stories and projects from our permaculture community homestead. Come gather by the fire, and let's explore the magic of connection, creation, and the living land. Hey, welcome back to Forest Alchemy.
Thanks for joining us.
If this is your first time tuning in, hello.
We're Mike,
And Allie,
recording from the wild and wonderful woods of Michigan,
where we live, parent, grow, build.
and occasionally chase ducks and kids mid-sentence.
We're part of Soulfire Forest, an intentional community rooted in soul connection, permaculture, creativity,
And the kind of chaotic harmony that includes birdsong, barking dogs, curious kids, and the occasional chainsaw in the background.
This podcast is a place for honest, messy, magical conversations about forest life, healing, homesteading, parenting, and soul work.
So we realized that we've got 2 episodes so far, but we've never actually introduced ourselves.
So I guess we're doing that today. We're joined by our fellow Soulfire Forest community human, Liberty, and together we'll share the story of who we are, how this experiment in community living began, and what you can expect from this podcast as it continues to grow.
Much like our ever-expanding list of half-finished projects.
Come on in, it's wild here.
But it's real.
Okay. All right, so here we are in the garden planting tomatoes with Liberty.
Hi guys. Yeah, that's what today has been, is just planting as many tomatoes as I can because we have too many and they're taking up too much space in the greenhouses and I'm impatient. It's the end of May.
It is
Come
looking
on.
so nice in here, and you're like perfect timing on the planting of these. Like Memorial Day weekend just hit, and that's when they're like plant the things after Memorial Day.
I usually try to plant a few things early just to see. And we definitely have enough starts that like it's okay to sacrifice a few to science. Just, are we gonna get a sudden frost, a sudden 30-degree night? Yes, actually, and a few tomatoes that went in last week are unhappy. But I think it's worth the risk at this point to get them in the ground.
Having those mini hoop houses is really helpful too, because then you can kind of protect them from the frost.
Yeah, those have been so useful. They have their pros and cons. But we designed them, my dad and I, we designed them for season extension in a organized sort of way. Like they're all 4x8 and they have enough space to, I don't know, they're made out of high quality like greenhouse plastic, and the PVC hoops are like protected, or there's a barrier between them and the plastic so the plastic doesn't break down. Anyways, all that. We thought through all of that. Yeah. And they're lightweight. One person can get up under it and move it. But it's easier with 2.
Yeah, for sure.
But they weren't very usable in the first couple of years after we made them. We have the materials to make a whole bunch more, but we'd stopped because this garden specifically, we're in the main garden at Harpy Farms, and like this is where Keith started 10 years ago when they bought this place.
Built the house back there.
Exactly. So this is where he started, and his style of gardening is very artistic and flowy, and it's changing, and it has these amazing shapes, and it feels organic, and I absolutely love that. But once you start scaling up to where we've got now, where we have multiple gardens that are being managed and you know, market level production in some crops, it's like we have to organize a little bit more straight lines, unfortunately. You know, but the more we change these bed orientations, make them simpler, more 8-foot by 4-foot wide beds, more 8-foot sections, we can fit those mini hoop houses, those little cloches, I guess, into a lot of these beds now, so they're becoming more practical.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But in order to implement them fully, we would need to make a lot of sandbags because you have to weight them down because we get a lot of wind here. And they're like umbrellas.
Yeah.
So they need good weight, and you have to be able to prop them up to vent them, you know? So it's complicated, but
And it's
they
still-
allowed us to start things like way sooner. We got some really nice things going on
well,
early.
even with the expansion, it still feels like Keith's artistic touch was still like held on to in here. Like there's
sure.
arches. And,
Oh, we tried to hold on. We didn't want to change hardly anything except maybe a few paths to or widen some paths to increase access and So we're sacrificing some bed space for ease of use, and now that there are multiple gardeners like passing through, it's nice to be able to walk around and have good access paths. They're very important.
Yeah.
And so we've sacrificed some of the curvy beauty, which we love and we have in other places, just because practicality.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the curvy beauty. Like if I'm whatever door I come out of the house the most, like that's where I like the little bit of that.
I
to it.
love doing perennials in that style because it just makes so much more sense, and you're not turning over crops, something that stays there. And so we have these gardens that aren't fenced, that aren't for annual crops, that do have this meandering sort of feel, and I love that. I love that that's what we're trying to go for in the general aesthetic sense, but like here in the practical world of how many tomatoes can I produce, it's a little more boring, and it's clusters of evenly spaced everything.
Well, and for harvesting too, it is hard when like you have to go all around to find all the different things.
It's way fun if you have a small garden and you can send the kids off on a scavenger hunt to go find all the tomatoes because they're planted in 20 different places. But when you're trying to get pounds and pounds and pounds of tomatoes collected by a certain amount of time before market or before whatever,
you do a big canning project,
or before exactly. You want to be able to walk down a row and collect all of the same type of tomato, So like here, it's fun. We've got 6 varieties in this one bed. But there's clusters of, so there's like 7, what are these? What do they say?
I see German lunchbox here.
Yes, yeah, German. So this is 7 German lunchbox tomatoes, which is a small red
like
standard.
Moneymakers?
I don't know.
Moneymakers are my
tomatoes.
favorite tomato. They're not cherry tomatoes. They're slightly bigger. They're like they're like this big. Like a, how would you describe that
slicer?
size? No, they're not
Medium.
as big as a slicer. They're smaller than a slicer and bigger than a cherry.
Do we have a word for
and
that
they're super
category
prolific.
of tomato? Because like I was thinking about it, like the ones that are medium, not like
Not the big, not the like,
beefsteaks,
not the slicers.
honkers. No, but
like small. They're like
Yeah.
they're like
Like in
this.
between a Roma and like
They're
but
like
round.
they're like
Step
a
up from
Roma but round instead of instead of oblong.
Yeah.
And they're so delicious. Like the bigger the tomato, the more watery they taste, and they're not as flavorful.
I have yet
I
to
know
meet a
you hate
delicious
tomato.
Oh,
You hate tomatoes.
Okay,
so they're
you're
so good.
biased. Let's not
Yeah.
talk to Mike about tomatoes.
But they're called money makers because they're really prolific, and so they became really popular. They're also great for canning because they're like, just like little, and they're so cute and they're so tasty. But they're like boring looking, they're not like purple and blah.
Yes,
But
well,
I love them. They're
this
my
is a
favorite one I've
boring
grown.
variety, but
I wonder
highly
if it'll be like
productive, and you gotta have some standard reds in your cherry tomato mix.
I like the. I'm into the flavor. I want it to have a lot of flavor. I don't care what it looks like. If it's purple, great. But I want it to taste delicious.
Yeah, we prioritize that too. So it's like German lunchbox, standard reds, Rosella, which is like a cherry, like a dark, cherry-ish, chocolate sort of cherry tomato.
Yum.
We also have like chocolate dwarfs, which are down in that row, but those are mostly, those are delicious. Oh my god, so good. But like right now, I like that they're small. They're little bitty dwarf plants that just stay in a little tiny tomato cage, and anyways.
Cute.
So, but then we have honeycomb, which is a small orange tomato, cherry tomato. We have sunrise bumblebee, which is like
Oh, cute.
striped and yellow and blushy orange and you know. That sound. Translate.
Yeah.
So good. So good, but very flashy. And across from it, pink tiger, which is also like a pointy tipped, looks kind of like a nipple.
Yeah.
Like shaped tomato. But like striped
that one.
pink and, you know, whatever.
Oh, cute.
So, yeah, we have a lot of different, and then we've got some big slicers over here, like, we've got this one, which is Moskowitz. Moscovich.
And then is it mostly
Moskowitz?
Romas, or is that all Romas over in the garden by us?
Well, Roma is a particular, like,
Or paste
variety
tomatoes? Paste
of
tomato.
paste tomato, and I'm not actually growing any Romas because I don't like them because they're boring and they don't have a lot of flavor, in my personal opinion. So, like, I've chosen a number. We have a bunch of different paste tomatoes. Some I chose, some Keith chose, but collectively they're all very taste, you know, intensive, chosen for that, you know. Paste tomatoes are very practical for canning because they have very little water, but like we've got some striped ones, which ought to be fun. I think they're pointy tipped. We have something called a cream sausage paste tomato, which is white.
Cream sausage.
Yes.
I've not seen a white
White
tomato.
It's a
tomato?
white. It's a white paste tomato.
Wow.
We have-
white tomato sauce.
Oh god, we have orange icicle, which is a you know, bright orange tipped paste tomato as well. We have Blue Beach, which is like a standard red, and San Marzanos, which is also a standard red.
Yeah,
But like our
I've done
paste
San
tomatoes are going to be
Marzano.
a wide range of colors.
So as you can
You
probably
know.
tell from listening, Liberty here is our head gardener.
Not
So-
true. Not true. That is my goal in life, is to be head gardener.
Of
I'm
the
not
three
that
of
right
us,
now.
Right now, you are the head gardener. Like
Of
we have,
Soulfire Forest, you are head gardener. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Thanks.
We've not had this with all we've been doing. We've not had the space to, like normally I'd be out here doing the same thing right now, but I've not started any tomatoes in the last 2 years now. Even though I don't eat tomatoes, I'm really good at growing them. Apparently, I perfected that for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
He perfected tomato growing so that I could eat them all because they're my favorite vegetable / fruit. So,
Love languages.
what brought you into community?
I've always been seeking out community because I saw it as a kid. You know, my dad was part of founding Earth Haven in North Carolina, and you know, when my parents divorced, I would go back and forth, and so I'd spend the summers with my dad at Earth Haven, and got to run around, you know, a wild mountain village with a bunch of other barefoot kids, and
Beautiful.
you know, got to participate in community meals and, you know, celebratory fires and just building projects where everybody jumps in, and it's kids and adults and, you know, bare feet and cob making and music, and, you know, that's what I got to see. And then I, you know, went back to normal life, you know, outside of that, you know, back to where my mom, and we lived in Nashville, and you know, I went to school, and that it didn't look like that at all. You know, the community, it was every family out for themselves. It was like, you know, different. I don't know. So I've always like got a taste of community life, of what that might look like, and then have been looking for it ever since. So it's like, I'm just not someone who's cut out to be, you know, out for oneself, you know, like just like
I don't
me.
think
And
anyone really is.
I think
I
that
think it's a myth.
well, I always thought that I was the weird one who didn't really do that well, which was like, yeah, no, I on my own, I don't have any
I don't think any of us sitting
singular
here
ambitions.
right
I'm
now
like,
are
yeah.
good at doing the things on our own.
No.
Yeah.
So it was 4 years ago last month that I met you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we got to talking about community. I was
I
like,
know.
hell yes, I want in.
Yeah. Well, and you were saying, you know, we'll build it or go to it or whatever. And I was like, wow, you know, like Yeah.
I was done doing it on my own. Like, it's too much.
Yeah. I spent years trying to do all of the things, hoping that people would gravitate towards the things I was doing, right? You know, you hope that if you do all the homesteading, if you grow the food, if you change your lifestyle, and you hope that other people like that will find you or something, and at a certain point you kind of have to just be like, well, if it's happening here or not, you gotta go find, like I was in Tennessee, it wasn't happening, and I was tired of farming alone. I was tired of being the sole person, making big decisions about land, about and parenting too, and doing just too much, because I felt like I had to be doing everything, and didn't even really know what support looked like. Knew that I was missing it, but and decided, like, okay, well, I guess my only other option is move up to where there's family doing the same thing, because I've got family up in Michigan doing what I'm doing, and we're doing it separately, and we could be doing it together. And that was the logic that brought me up here, Plus, then 2020, COVID hit, and it was like, you're stuck at home. What else are you gonna do? Make a big giant move. Drag the family up to Michigan. Yep. And obviously not everything went as planned, but the community that I was hoping to find has developed in this beautiful way that I didn't expect, or could have really seen how it played out. But I'm really grateful. I'm really, really grateful to have you guys next door. It's my dream come true, because I don't have to leave my house. Like, I don't have to leave my home, my farm, I don't have to go places away from where I'm happy to be with the people I love,
Yeah.
So that's...
I'm glad it worked out that we ended up over here, because the only other way, had you not got the house in town for briefly, our other option was, like, building from scratch.
Right.
Like, we still want to do, because the house we're in is, like, too small for us.
Right, but being forced into that when you're not prepared or ready to do it is not
Well,
great.
and without community. So here we can do that with community support.
Yeah. I'm honestly really stoked to see that happen in our future. I'm just really excited for it.
Right.
And
we were all manifesting community separately, and I think it all just, like, the energy just pulled us all here.
Yeah.
I was down 2 hours south building community, but you guys pulled me up here. You did.
Yeah. No, see, I knew when I met Mike that Mike was a person who had gravity. And that if I just stuck close to Mike, his gravity would take care of all of the people stuff. I'm not the best naturally at just, like, going out and making connections with people. I need them to sort of be nearby and have some line of connection. So it's like, Mike, you're the one that everybody gravitates to, and I don't have to, I'll just meet cool people because I'm in your orbit.
and that's only recently started for me, because I'm typically, like, the weirdo in a pool of normies, and, like, I don't want to hang out with the normies anymore than I want to hang out with me. But then I started finding the others that were, like,
The weirdos,
the ones that had similar values and similar visions, and I'm like, holy shit, there's others out there. It's not just me thinking like this.
It flips it completely inverted, and it's like, oh, the weirdos are, the ones connecting to other weirdos and trying to avoid the normies, and then it's more of us doing that, right?
Yeah, and then the normies see what we're doing, and they're like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Maybe I don't want to be out
and
here.
we turn them weird.
Oh, no. Do you know what it is? They realize, oh, I'm not actually as normy as I think.
Yeah.
I've just been masking, and it turns out when I'm around other people who are safe to be myself with, you realize, oh, normie is just a construct, and it's not actually real, and we're all just varying degrees of not.
Oh man, you gotta read the book Normal Sucks. I think we
I
told
know,
you. It's so good. Yeah, we'd like to ask him to be on the podcast. It's an incredible book. There is no normal. there's no such thing as normal. We grow up with this idea that there's normal, that we're all trying to be, but when you actually like statistically, scientifically look at humans, there's no such thing as normal.
Right.
Like you can't pin it down.
Normal
what
is a
normal
construct we put together to help simplify complex data, right?
Yeah.
Well, and to outcast people. Like normal, the idea of normal, even like the word normal.
Right. We
is-
have to come
is
up with
just-
one thing that everything will fit. Well, that means we have to pretend that most people fit into this one
When nobody
box
does.
when nobody actually does.
No
Like
one
just a
actually
very
fits in
small
that box.
percentage of people do because,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I found the, I was a weird kid growing up, but I was good at masking and fitting in with anybody. I'm good at making friends. I can make friends with pretty much anyone. But when I moved to Colorado, that's when I really started finding the weirdos and being like, oh, okay, so like actually these are the people that I want to be around all the time. And coming out to Michigan is when I becoming a parent is when I was like, I need community. I can't homestead and parent without community. I don't really know if it's possible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was getting so burnt out trying to do parenting and homeschooling, and I was building community around homeschooling. But at the end of the day, all of us homeschooling families, it was, well, you've still got your home and your problems and your family and your needs to take care of, and you don't really, outside of this, group or this time that we spend together, our lives aren't really integrated. We still are separate, and like that was always not going to be quite enough for me, because it was like, okay, we're sharing, curriculum, we're sharing, time and experiences with our kids, but at the end of the day, it's like I needed support on a basic human level, a community on that level of like, who's going to be around when I need to do my laundry?
Yeah.
Who's going to, come and check on me and have a conversation in the middle of winter when I can't get out of bed? Like that kind of community support, and I always felt bad for needing that and knowing, no, I that's what I need. And it wasn't until I started meeting other people that had that need that I didn't feel weird anymore because it was, oh, this is also something you experience. Oh, it's something you experience. Oh,
Yeah, they're trying to make you feel broken
right.
for having different needs than what they want everybody to have.
Yeah.
Like, they want everybody to be independent, need to buy their own things, everybody has the duplicates of everything, because everybody's got to have their own.
Right.
Well, it reminds me of the story that I tell all the time, which, because when I heard it the first time, I was just like, whoa. It's just like one of those facts that just blow your mind. But the real rise of postpartum depression, where we just started having exponential higher numbers of postpartum depression, was when the washing machine was invented.
I know.
Because we all used to go down to the river and wash our clothes together, and we were I just get goosebumps every time I tell it, because I'm just it just makes me want to cry.
I know, when I read that, I was like, that makes so much sense.
Yes. I'm
Ugh.
now we're doing all these stupid chores alone. I'm like, that's just awful.
Well, it's weird how this is one perspective of this. And when I first, what was the name of there was a documentary called The Age of Stupid, and they talked about our energy usage and how third world countries don't have the same energy usage, and it's not fair. So third world countries need to come up in their energy use, and then we all go down together, which I don't know how that works out.
That doesn't.
But they had the washing machine as an example, and how much time it saved these women in these remote villages, and when they started bringing in washing machines. But then hearing this story, I'm like, okay, so it's beneficial from people looking at it from a productive point of view, but that doesn't necessarily help one's mental health, being more productive, doing it on your own.
Right. And that reminds me of, was it a podcast we were just listening to? Oh, it was a TED Talk where the guy was living in a remote village in India or something, and everyone told him, "Oh, you're really smart. You need to like go to university." Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
You need to go to university and learn and get a 9-to-5 job. And he's like, "Okay." So he like moves to university, like he learns all the things. He gets like this really nice high-paying job, and he's like, "I'm horribly depressed. My life sucks now." And so he actually gave all that up and went back to the village. And now he's like, I own my own land. I built my own house. I like literally I have zero money.
Yeah, and he's helping
And
others
I'm
build their
happy.
houses.
I'm happy. Like you don't need, it's such a myth that we just need money in order to be happy. I hear our kids saying that too. They get taught that of this like, oh, if we just have like all this money, then we'll be happy. But no.
We need our core needs met, and currently in this
Yeah.
society, most people do that by using money.
Right.
And distracting themselves with dopamine emitters, like our phones and
Phones
watching
and
TV.
TVs and,
Yeah.
Can we stand up?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna over a little bit.
I got work to do.
We can work and talk.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we're talking about, is doing the things together.
Oh, plus if I sit in the same position for too long without moving, my feet fall asleep.
Yeah, my butt was falling asleep too, so I'm moving and grooving.
I just love walking through here and seeing all the different plants, and I love that I like know what so many of them are. Like 10 years ago, I would have known your like basic garden plants, but now like I can look at so many of the things and in such varied gardens and know what everything is. All right, where should we?
Yeah, how can we support you in this task?
You guys can sit right there and you can whatever.
Cool.
But I
I don't know if my legs are long enough to go over this bed.
It's okay. There's not
There's
a lot
nothing
in there.
implanted? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
it's fine. We are moving into this area. Oh, this stuff comes up everywhere. I think
Yeah,
it's
what is that?
St. John's wort.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you tear it out.
I do because we don't tear everything out, but when it's in my way, I tear it out because we do
Okay.
not need as much as actually comes up in the garden. I mean, come on, we could maybe use one plant's worth, and
we had a
it comes
little-
up everywhere.
We had occasional patches at the old house, but for that's when I feel like you often just collect the flowers on.
Right.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, there's never going to be enough here to harvest. So I always thought if I just ignored it, it would like spread, but there'd be a big patch in one spot one year, and then next year, like somewhere nearby, there might be a few random plants.
Do you want
Yeah.
to pull this stuff here? What can I pull?
You can if you want. I'm just making space for these.
Are those
5
all going to go
plants.
right there on that side?
They are. I'm doing orange icicle paste tomatoes on this side of this trellis. And then, because I went and did an inventory, because Keith started a lot of the tomatoes. I started some, but he started most of them. And so I went through and was like, all right, what do we have? Right? What varieties do you have? Wrote them all down, looked some of them up because I'd never even heard of them before. Like, what is a German lunchbox tomato? What the?
Sounds cute.
Yeah, and then there's one called winter grape, and I'm imagining in my head, I'm like, is it white? No, it's just
It's blue.
it apparently keeps on the vine for weeks at a time.
Oh wow.
Huh.
So you clip clusters like vine attached, and then they
Oh, I
keep.
love
And I'm like,
those.
oh, that's why it's called winter grape, because it's sort of a grape
Like a
tomato, and it
winter
keeps over winter or something after. I'm like, oh,
Huh.
okay. Also a boring red tomato. I'm biased. There are so many beautiful tomatoes that come in so many colors. It's like,
Mm.
I'm also biased because my ex-father-in-law was a only red tomatoes are good tomatoes kind of guy, and I became, well, red tomatoes are the worst tomatoes, kind of like, just to be ornery and be like, you're wrong. And I forget, you know what? Some red tomatoes are actually pretty good.
Yeah, I can relate. So what are our goals as Soulfire Forest? We're not trying to build like a community with hundreds of people here. We're trying to
No.
build like a co-parenting community with a couple of families that are parenting together. But one of the visions that I've always seen is like you know, I have this like little community village that I live in, but then we're also like helping other communities and villages start up around us that we can like trade resources, and but then also like teaming up with like our local community of Montague and all of our farmers and connecting all of the farmers together.
Yeah. I hate this is the reference that comes up for me, but I'm like, you guys don't watch The Walking Dead, but if you take out all of the dead and the violence, that's basically the community I want. But it's small communities that are connected, or they work towards this, you know, and then it's multiple communities that are connected and trade, and it's local, you know, obviously it's out of necessity, but like, I think we should figure that out before
I feel like it's
shit happens, you know, like,
necessity.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly thought-provoking show, and it's like, what? Okay, let's not go that far, but shit is gonna get more difficult. Where do I want to be? I would like to be in a community that, you know, is connected to food and to the communities around us, and you know, values more than just money. You know, there's a whole economy on this scale that never gets, you know, calculated, because it's neighbors trading with neighbors and gifting and
it's not making anybody else money outside
exactly
of us.
And so it's not, we don't report it, it doesn't have anything to do with taxes, it's just knowing people and having a back and forth reciprocal relationships. Like with Stu at Shoal Farms, he and us, like, we are constantly giving things or trading things back and forth, and we're never tallying up. So we just always assume, like, oh yeah, I'll help you out the next time you need help. Oh yeah, of course, you know. And it's just it's a sort of gratitude vibe of just like, oh yeah, no, I'm looking out for you, you're looking out for me. When I have something you need, I'll, you know. But yeah, it was
fun going over a couple years ago now when we went over and helped Stu with harvesting potatoes.
Yeah, and the kids love it too.
And they still talk about doing that.
Yeah, like kids, well, the boys also recently went over to help him with a burn. They love that. And I love, like, you know, he's a retired school teacher, so he's so good at involving kids. And I also just think that's so important for our kids to be around adults that aren't their parents.
Oh, totally.
And have those kind of relationships. Like, I love that the girls and the boys get to hang out with you and learn from you too.
Yeah. And then I imagine they're kind of like, oh, these other people are saying the same things that our parents do.
Dang it, maybe our parents are right. Shit.
Or maybe at least they're not crazy, right?
Well, I mean, I think we are. I think we all are. It's fine.
I don't think they're gonna think that we're not crazy. We're never gonna.
No, but there's this idea of like, oh my God, only you think that. And it's like, actually, no.
Well, because it's what we thought too. Like, I mean, like we just said, like all of us thought we were the only ones.
Yeah. But like, I have kids who come home from school and are talking about, you know, justice issues, and they're telling me things, and I'm like, yeah, dude, you're right. Like, awesome. And it's not me trying to convince them of things. It's them being like, did you know the world is like this? And it's like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, I appreciate the kids are learning more along that. But one thing that doesn't feel great is, like, the kids are currently feeling hopeless about the future because they're being sold this line that, like, things are bad, nobody's changing anything, and
we're all gonna die.
Yeah, we're all gonna die. Like, there's not gonna be a world for them.
Okay, well, yeah, everybody does die. We all are gonna.
But this narrative is being sold that it's too late, that we've already fucked everything up, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And that scares me, because, like, here we are doing something about it. Like, we are creating an environment in which, like, no matter what happens, we'll be fine.
Yeah, the millions of people living in cities who couldn't identify a single edible plant, or, like, how to even grow a tomato plant, like, those people are probably going to struggle a little bit.
But if we continue to tell people, especially kids, that everything is fucked and there's nothing you can do about it, well, then they don't have to do anything about it because it's already fucked. So
Yeah, they
they
just
can
sit and wait.
continue to buy into this system
Well,
and
Might
this
as well
life.
feed my dopamine.
It's the falsehood of black and white thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That yes, we have messed things up, and there are definitely things we are too far gone to fix or reverse.
Mm-hmm.
That is what's happening with our planet. But that doesn't mean there aren't things we should be doing and can be doing.
Mm-hmm.
It means accepting a new reality. Things
Yeah.
are fucked. That means they're gonna look very different. The future our kids are gonna have are gonna look very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, weather's gonna be a little different. What grows here is gonna be a little different.
And for most people, most places, things are gonna be harder. That is the reality. But
Sure.
that should mean that what we can do, we should be doing, because that's the reality we're working with. And if we want to make things that are inevitably going to be hard a little less hard,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
No.
that's why we, you know. So
Right.
it's not all or nothing. It's, yeah, we're at a point where bad things are happening and are going to keep happening. But that means we have to be able to, you know, rely on a system that we create that's actually there for us when things fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that doesn't strike me as government or,
No.
you know,
Yeah.
that's people.
That's
Yeah.
Stu.
That's Stu at the end of the day. Which is funny because he is also government, because he's on the zoning board.
But local government.
Local government, yes,
Local
but it's-
government and not, yeah.
But it's when your local
Not Big
government
Daddy.
is your neighbors and your friends and
yeah.
your, you know, neighbors' family members.
That's one thing I really love about Montague is like the people that I've met that are part of the local government here,
Mhm.
like they're real people
Yeah.
that I like to hang out with.
Yeah, they're real people, you know.
It's a good community
And
here.
you engage with them. You see them at the farmers market. You know, you see
Yeah.
them at town events, and then you
Mhm.
just, that's the scale that works, I think, when you can humanize everybody around you, when you're on a scale that's small enough to say, you know, oh, I recognize you, I know you.
Yeah.
You know.
I can see how my decisions affect your life.
Right, exactly. And then, of course, there's varying scales of community that have to be in place. You know, there's small scale, like we're not talking about hundreds of families. You know, that's a bigger endeavor than what we're working with.
Yeah.
You know,
But I would
But-
love to, like, if land opens up around us, to kind of grow and expand.
yeah.
But I like how there's lots of communities that do it in a way that it's like different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You
Well, and
know,
I'd love
so,
to
like, we have
be
our
in
little
a support
village here.
network
Right.
of communities. You
right,
know,
right.
where
So-
you have the people that you share your tools with,
Yeah.
and the ones that you eat meals with regularly.
Uh-huh.
And then you have your, you know, communities that, you know, on a slightly larger scale that you get together with less frequently, but you still trade goods and, you know, can rely on when there's a big need.
Right.
All the things.
He found himself an onion
Yeah.
or garlic.
It's oh my gosh. So, Tony
It smells like garlic.
is so cute, but he tries to rescue all alliums. All of them. Wild, weedy, not cultivated, doesn't matter. He will see that I've yanked it out of the ground and he will rescue it and plant it somewhere.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's how I am too.
And I feel a little bad, but also it's the cutest thing. I'm just like, yeah, you can keep doing that, and I'm gonna keep throwing them.
The soil is beautiful over here.
This is, you probably heard this from Keith, but this is not what our soil used to look like.
Right.
Yeah.
He describes it as beach sand, and it
Mhm.
was. Because underneath this, if you see these very sandy soils, you've got the organic matter on the top, which turns it dark, and then it gets a little bit browner and oranger, and then underneath that thick orange sand is like sugar sand. It
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
stick together at all. It's pale, that's what's underneath all of this. And when they first bought this place, it didn't hold any moisture. It was like a desert out here. There were no weeds growing that weren't like, we had lichen and knapweed, and like there was no grass. Grass wouldn't even grow here, and grass grows everywhere.
Yeah, we had not great soil at the last place we were at, but it still grew grass great, which was annoying. Because
Because grass can grow in any place on earth under very, very rough conditions. So if grass can't grow, you know it's bad.
Yeah.
So what we started with here 10 years ago was sand and not much else. Not a lot of organic matter, not a lot of mineral content, very low nutrient. And dries out like crazy because we are 5 miles from the lake and we get a lot of wind. And it's lovely, but it also dries everything out. First things first, it was like compost and mulch, compost and mulch, compost and mulch, layering down, adding now it's a totally different color.
Yeah.
The soil's a whole different color, but it's also its capacity. Like right now, it's wet.
Yeah.
Because it rained recently. Normally, with just sand, by now it'll be dry. You know, in areas where we haven't amended and the sand is just, it dries out immediately. The fact that this is holding moisture is a miracle. But it's because, what do we say? Soil is our first crop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what,
Yep.
that's the basis of all of it, you know? So everything we add makes soil, like, we would love to get up to like 4 to 6% organic matter in this soil, and we started with like 0.001 like percent, like yeah. But if you see in the other, like y'all's place over the garden over there, like that's what we did for 3 years after we bought this place, that place, I just layered material down. I was like, I'm going to grow here eventually. It's not good enough to do that now. I'll invest for the future. Layers of wood chips,
Wood
straw,
chips and straw, yeah.
and ducks and chickens.
You
and
put the
bedding
ducks and chickens in there.
yes.
Yeah.
And so it was like lots and lots and lots of that, and then we started growing in it. And now you
Yeah, it's
dig in
nice.
there, and there's a lot of organic matter, and it's very dark.
Did Keith put any chickens and ducks in this area? So this is all just organic material.
This is
built
all
up.
organic material. This is some local, compost and manure, things like that. And we've been very lucky to get wood chips.
Oh, it's been, this tree service that's been bringing them has been great.
Yeah. And we've been getting them for years, really, and we've just been spreading mulch and spreading mulch and spreading mulch.
They were bringing, I got on the chip, at the old house, I got on the chip drop list like the first year I was there, and talked to my neighbor, gave me a couple leads for tree companies, and maybe every other year I'd get like a load or two of wood chips. I got to the point where like if I saw somebody like at a gas station or on the side of the road doing tree work, I would pull over and I'd be like, hey man, can you bring me those wood chips? Because we were like desperate.
Yeah, well, I think if you talk to any permaculturist, that's the thing we have in common, is we've all at some point or another hunted down a tree company to get their wood chips.
It was strange to me how hard it was here, because like I started off in like in Wyoming outside of Grand Rapids, and there like the city would bring you wood chips. Like they wanted to get rid of it.
I was used to that too, because living around Nashville, there was so much material, and they were just trying to get rid of it, and you could call any place and have them come and dump it in your driveway.
And then we moved north of the city, and we had no problem finding places that would like they'd call me up, they're like, hey, you need wood chips? And we're like, yep, every single time. So here it took years to like finally find somebody who like would regularly bring us out wood chips. And then it was funny that they were bringing them to my place, and then they were also bringing them to you. So you had lucked into them as well.
Yeah. Well, now we're all getting the same wood chips, but at least they know they can go back and forth and dump it in both places. And peas.
You want the purple dead nettle out of here?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's a pea.
It is a pea. Those are peas. Those are peas. Oh, and there are beans everywhere because Keith grew like beans all through this whole garden last year. And there are just bean seeds everywhere. I don't think we would even have to plant any if we didn't want to, because they're just, in a couple of weeks, they're going to be everywhere.
Is this a friend or is this knapweed?
This is carrot.
Oh, it's
Although
carrot.
it's
Okay.
from last year, so it may just be trying to go to seed. Which is okay.
Yeah, that's
We like our carrots
Yeah,
as a weed.
that's my
Because-
way of perennializing annuals is just letting things go to seed and drop them, and then I
Yes.
don't have it's less for me to
Well,
do. and it grows
carrots
food.
have such tiny, lightweight seeds that when you try to plant them, half of them revolt or end up so it's so much better if they just get scattered everywhere, and the ones that want to come up, and then you got carrots everywhere. Like that's because I don't like growing carrots. I like carrots that grow for me.
Yeah, pulling carrot seeds and thinning carrots is not my favorite part.
Oh, no, yeah. The thinning, no. Okay. I'm gonna get more of these. This is
What
called
variety is-
hillbilly. And it's
Pale Billy?
a hillbilly.
Oh, hillbilly.
Hillbilly, and specifically hillbilly potato leaf, because there is a hillbilly variety that's not a potato leaf tomato, but this is. Or no, this one's not. Oh, but we have a bunch that are potato leaf. Anyways, so I guess we have both varieties.
Hillbilly.
But it's like a beefsteak type tomato, but it's like kind of flashy and orangey, stripey, whatever. So, trying that. New one for me this year.
So is Tony mowing, or is he chopping up more straw over there?
No, he's mowing through the hedge, but he's I had the big mower out the other day, and he said, leave me some of the hedge because I want to collect. He likes to collect the grass and then spread it, especially since a lot of it right now hasn't yet gone to seed or is just about to, and so he's mowing some of that down and mulching it.
Yeah, that is one use I have for grass, is when I was desperate for compost materials, is I would mow some grass with the bagger on and collect it and add to the compost pile.
Yeah, and that was a good idea. I've never heard of that, what you guys were doing with a straw, of mowing. So you guys laid straw out on the ground and then mowed over it with the push mower
Yeah,
to make it easier to go around plant friends.
Yeah, it chops it up smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sometimes Tony buys bagged like chopped straw that's compressed and uses that
I didn't know
on
that was a thing.
seedlings and things like that. And it's really nice, but is expensive.
I was about to say, I bet it's
And,
expensive.
So we got some straw from Stu in trade for some work that Tony did. And we were like, man, it would be nice to have it smaller and fluffier so you could just sprinkle it everywhere, right? And then we each tried our own version of doing it with hand tools
Oh, man.
because both of us had this like brain itch to try it, and I was like, I just want to see how much I can do with my hand pruners. They needed to be sharpened, and my wrist started hurting after like one bunch. He wanted to try one of those old-fashioned like paper
Oh,
slicers.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was really fun. We did it on the kitchen floor, and that was questionable.
That sounds sad.
But
That's
then we both agreed, all right, we're gonna mow it. Because the push mower has a bagger, and so it's just like chops it up and collects it in the bag, and then we
So that while that does speed it up some, I see this and my brain automatically starts going to, I could build a machine that you just feed the bale into, and like 2 minutes it's chopped up and done.
Yes, but do you have the time to build that machine before we need the chopped straw?
Not currently.
Exactly. We need the
one of my
chopped
top
straw
priorities
yesterday.
Is the biochar screener and crusher, because like one thing that nobody doing biochar on like a small scale has like
I
perfected
know.
is
You're
crushing
gonna be
it.
the one. You're gonna be the one who figures it out, and
Well, I have a prototype of like a crusher that I made a couple years, or like a decade ago now. But it takes, I'd have to like buy some more things, but I think the hammer mill is going to be the quicker solution to that.
you're gonna do it. You're gonna fix it for all of us.
I'm a little nervous because a lot of the wood that I biocharred was like old rotted barn wood that still had nails in it, because I'm like, I'm not going to bother pulling out all these nails. We'll just char it and like magnet the nails out later, but now we've got hundreds of pounds of char filled with nails that we'll have to magnet out, and if we don't, I'm a little nervous of creating sparks in the hammer mill when we're crushing the biochar and it's all in its powdered form and getting maybe a big boom.
Uh-oh.
But we'll see how it goes.
We'll have to be careful with the magneting.
Nope.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure we do a good job of that.
All right.
So did you grew up around your dad and his permaculture-ness, and
well, both my
Earth Haven.
parents were permaculture practitioners.
Oh, okay.
They met
I didn't
that
know
way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my mom went on to do other things, but that's where she and my dad connected.
Oh, okay. Okay. So when you were a kid, did you have any inkling that you would grow up to become a farmer, or were you like what got you into permaculture, basically? I mean, you were raised in permaculture.
Here's the thing, I was always in it. I never really left it, you know? And it took me seeing myself and my skills and my knowledge and my experience with permaculture through other people's eyes to make me realize, oh, this is something that other people might be interested in, because it just was always something I did, and you know, I was kind of the weird person, you know, weird plant girl. And and then I grew into a period of my adulthood where there were people around me who valued those skills and that knowledge and that weirdness.
And you became a plant woman.
And yeah, and then it was like, oh, I guess the thing that I haven't gone to school for, the thing that I haven't formally trained for but have been doing my whole life, might be the thing that I actually just do with my life. But it, you know, if you'd asked me at 3 years old what I was going to be, it was artist. And I said that my entire, up until I went to college and
too.
got it and went for an art degree and then stopped.
You're definitely an artist as well.
Yes. It's funny, the things that I do that I would consider most career-like, neither of them make any money.
Yeah.
Like artist, farmer.
Well, they save you, like farmer, that saves you money. Way of
The
making
more money is saved, the less you have to make.
Yeah, and we will do CSA. We're figuring it out as we go.
We'll figure it out.
But now we have community so that we can support each other in doing these things. I started growing food because, well, I was actually thinking about it earlier today, like what brought me to homesteading and permaculture. And it was actually my anxiety and depression issues, and that led me to trying to find like natural cures for it, which led me to herbalism, which that's like a whole gateway, a gateway drug of sorts.
I think I started off in trying to find herbal medicine to like calm hyperactive children, and it kind of was a gateway to other things.
Right. And then that led me to paying attention to like the foods and the chemicals in my foods and my bathing products and laundry products, which led me to, oh, now I have to make everything myself because I can't buy anything that it actually is chemical free. And then that led me to, well, maybe I should grow the things that I
Yeah, see, I never converted to this. Like, this is the way I grew up.
It's the way you grew
like,
up.
my mom
I grew
was
up in
the
a normie family.
crunchy, like, holistic everything. Yeah.
I grew up in it. Like, my mom is a lawyer. My dad worked in the school system. And mom and dad, if you're listening, no offense, but you're definitely normies, and I love you. But my dad always claims to be a hippie, because he does, like, he's a normie with some hippie values, you know. So I had a little bit of that growing up within a normie family world.
Which is definitely a lot further ahead than like so many people. Even though like a little bit is better than. Like staying at normie.
His was more from like the sustainable building approach of like, and like, you know, he's the son of Polish immigrants, so there was a lot of those values of like, you know, saving and using every part of everything. So that those values were kind of baked into it as well. But yeah, I didn't start growing food until I lived in Colorado, which was like less than a decade ago is when I started growing food. You guys have been doing it for like...
I grew up on a farm.
Yeah, you grew up on a fruit farm, so... What brought you to permaculture, Mike?
Seeing the way it's done conventionally. Oh my God,
Yeah, you grew up with all the chemicals.
Yeah, so I grew up on a conventional fruit farm, and then we also grew, there was my mom and dad, who me and my sister lived with, and it was my grandma's farm. It's like 120 some acres, so she lived on the farm, we lived on the farm, and then my Aunt Susan and Uncle Daryl, they had a farm that was like less than a mile away, and Susan ran the farm, like my grandma's part of the farm. But I just was seeing all the chemicals that were put on our food. My friend's dad died probably from the pesticides that were getting on his body, and then reading all the problems that come from all those pesticides, I'm like, I don't want to do it that way. And then I started looking at organic gardening and kind of learning about that, and then I think permaculture was just one of those things I like, getting in gardening groups, eventually popped up on the groups in Facebook that I was in, and I started looking into that, and then living with Keegan for a couple years, he was practicing permaculture at his place, so there I got to see it and live it in action.
So was living with Keegan your first introduction to permaculture itself?
I knew of permaculture and I knew a little bit of what it was about, but he's the one that kind of more he got to show me from what he was doing there, and how permaculture is not just a way of growing food, but it's like a system, a thinking system.
Mm-hmm.
that you can literally do anything else with.
Yeah.
You can strain more.
No, because the rest aren't at the same level. These are newer buckets. This is the last of the old stuff. Sorry. Yes.
So one of the things we talk about a lot is compost and soil building, and human manure and using animals for building soil. But right now, I'm going to talk a little bit about what you're doing to these. You're watering these new tomato plants from a can.
Yeah, so I just put these tomatoes in the ground today from pots into the ground, and I'm watering them in with comfrey tea. So we've had, for the last couple of weeks, we've had buckets. Yeah, laundry. Yeah, we gotta. Anyways, it's just started raining, so everybody's hollering, "Get the laundry! Get the laundry!" But yeah, I'm just watering in each of the plants with comfrey tea because the comfrey has started flowering, and so we've been chopping the first big ones that first biggest plants, and other greenery around like vetch and other things. Anyways,
You have any laundry you need to get off the line?
Yeah.
We can do it over there.
Okay.
If you want.
Anyways, yeah. But
always multitasking
laundry
here.
emergency.
But yeah, basically we're just fermenting.
Oh, this is actually perfect. We were just talking about doing laundry together as a community, and here we are doing our laundry together. So fun.
Stuff that was dry is here.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we've been fermenting comfrey in buckets, and when it gets real stanky, then it's ready to go. Anyways,
did have
and it's basically like tea. It's just an extraction of nutrients, and comfrey is excellent at
Podcast
pulling pulling nutrients out of the
Yeah, I've done
soil.
compost tea, and I grow comfrey for medicine, and I've heard of it being used for nutrients for plants, but I've never had enough. Strangely enough, as afraid of people are of comfrey, I've never been able to grow it in quantity with the shitty soils I've been dealing with.
Yeah. Well, we
good.
grow a lot of it because it's a nutrient accumulator and it's very useful, and everything eats it. So it's like a permaculture mascot,
Yeah.
right? If we had one, comfrey would be our mascot.
Oh, there's so.
Yeah,
there's a-
that's how I first heard about it, was hearing people talk about feeding it to their rabbits. When I was doing meat rabbits, everyone was like, grow lots of comfrey for your meat rabbits.
Yeah.
Because they love it.
And goats like it, and sheep like it, and pigs like it, and chickens like it.
And our skin likes it.
Yes.
Though you grow a different variety here than I grow for medicine.
Yes. Yes, we grow the variety that does not go to seed.
We have not yet had the time to work anymore
Contain.
on our container comfrey.
I do hope it rains.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to keep raining. It almost feels like it was just brief enough to send everybody in a panic and
Yeah.
passed.
It's still sprinkling a little bit. but-
Yeah, but this doesn't count. This is a working rain.
Yeah. It cools you down.
Yeah. There's rain where Tony's like, "What rain? I'm still working outside." And then there's rain that makes Tony go, "Damn it, I wanted to be working outside." So those are the two types of rain.
I've gotten a good amount of rain here so far this year, but in small amounts of time.
Yeah. The last rain we got was sufficient, but we were pretty dry for a while before that. And
Tornado warning night
yes,
storm.
that was a little dramatic. No, because we have dry soils, we have very dry soils. There's almost no amount of water that's too much to put on it. It drains very aggressively.
Yeah,
So
there's
water
never
does not
standing
pool. There's
water.
never standing water for very long. We have almost no clay content, so and that also means that we leach a lot of minerals out of our soils. So one thing that we're always doing with that in mind is when we're prepping soil, we're adding more minerals. We're always adding more minerals. And then we're adding more organic matter to increase our water holding capacity, which reduces our
Now you have me here adding
leakage.
Large amounts of biochar to the soil.
Yes. And we've been doing that for a long time too. And yeah, we're essentially just repairing the soil itself, changing its characteristics and its ingredients and to what we need.
Yeah, driving around Michigan is kind of sad when you think about it, and you pass all these ginormous fields when you know that this all used to be forest.
Yeah.
Well, and it's what held everything together, and now the dunes are sort of coming apart.
You know, I didn't know that Michigan it actually is number 2. And I mean, somebody fact checked me here, but this is something I read. I don't know if it's, I mean, sure, anything on the internet is totally true, right? But apparently Michigan's number 2 for the amount of old growth forest in the country. California's 1 and Michigan's 2, with the second most amount of old growth forest in the country.
I cannot say I would know, but that somehow feels. I have to say that northern Michigan, especially, there's quite a lot of that.
That's the first old growth forest I ever went in, and oh my god, it was like my ex-husband, his family goes up camping in the UP every year in October, and they bring this like really big tent that they actually put a wood stove in because they do it in October, and it was really fun. They do it for hunting. I did not go hunting. I just like hung out in the tent with baby Jenny, but part of it is hiking what was the mountain I told
Porcupine
you?
Mountain?
Porcupine Mountains. Yeah, and there's old growth forest in there, and I just like walk through it, and there's these like humongous trees that are just like huge, and there's no like, you know, when you're bushwhacking through forest and there's all this stuff that you have to walk through, there was just none of that. It was just like, I felt like I was walking through like a fairy kingdom. Like it just felt so magical and beautiful. I want to do it again.
Sounds like that's what we need to do. Now Sean's asking to go up to the UP.
I know.
But I don't know if he could survive the biting flies.
If Sean can't, then none of the rest of them can. He's the super outdoor trooper. Like,
Yeah, they're really itching for when Ocean's here for a weekend to go try and just survive in
hi,
the woods.
Miles. Hi. Yes. Thanks for checking in.
We have plans.
Yeah. He made plans with his friend who lives down the road and around the corner.
Oh, cool.
Yesterday he went to Daniel's without asking.
Oh.
So today he's asking.
Did he go on his bike?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
so I think that's what
explains that.
happened because we saw someone little following us on a bike, and we were like, surely that's not Miles.
On a helmet.
Well, I told him he couldn't go with you guys across to Tree Speaker, and he was real put out about that, so he decided to go to Daniel's, which is not across the big road. So,
Okay, so he heard your boundary and yeah, kids.
he told me very honestly when we talked about it. He said, I really was worried that you'd disapprove, and so I didn't want to tell you. And I was like, well, I understand that, but the only thing I really disapprove of is me not knowing where you are when you're
Mm-hmm.
not at home.
And what I'm always trying to explain to kids is like when you lie or not even lie, when you like go around it so one of our friends explained it like, and I use this with the kids a lot, building a trust bridge. So I use like we're building a bridge of trust that helps for you to be able to have like more freedoms and responsibilities, but like when you do stuff that like breaks down that trust bridge, then it's hard for us to have trust to give you more freedoms.
Right.
Yeah, he took the route of it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yeah. But that doesn't that gets you what you want that moment, but it creates more restrictions later on.
Yes.
How do you
I think
teach
it's
a
different,
kid
though,
that?
as children and adults? Because as an adult, I sometimes can appreciate the ask for forgiveness, not permission strategy. But I just,
Yeah.
As children, we're trying, to teach them to lean on their support system, which is us.
Yeah, right.
So this is another benefit of community, is we're not just raising our kids alone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We've got each other
Thank
kind of
goodness.
helping with each other's kids and like bouncing ideas and values and
Yeah.
And that's something we want to do on the podcast too, we do a conscious parenting workshop conscious parenting circle, which has been really, really fun in the past, which is just like parents coming together and talking about their struggles and successes, because it's hard to parent.
You feel like you're not doing as shitty a job as you think you are when you see that everybody else is like trying their best and still doing and getting the same things from their kids.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Well, and it's just helpful to know you're not alone,
Mm-hmm.
and that things are hard. Like, they just are, and they're going to be hard. And when you talk about it, and you talk about other people's hard stuff, and you realize, like, oh, it's okay.
Yep.
It's okay.
Yep.
And our children are overlapping, too, in a lot of their experiences, so we get to, collectively deal with situations because they're going through them together, and that's, nice. But all of our children are so different. When something happens and a group of them do something or, and we have to talk about it, it's like, wow, everybody's handling it. Everybody's thinking about this a little differently. Everybody's responding and reacting differently. And
It's so great.
and so what we have to do for each kid is unique.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helpful to have the perspective of like, oh yeah, my kids and their kids and their kids, like, oh yeah, it's a consistent, like, diversity.
Mm-hmm.
There's constantly
Mm-hmm.
things happening, but we at least know it's happening here, there, and where.
And then the different kids see each other respond to things in different ways. So sometimes they might get stuck on something, but then they see one of the other kids like respond to something a totally different way than they would have ever thought of. And they're like, oh, I can could do it that way. I don't
Yeah.
have to get stuck on it like I've been doing.
Right. And for perspective, in our community, we currently have a 1-year-old, a 3, almost 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 2 13-year-olds,
13-year-old, 14-year-old.
13-year-old, 14-year-old, 14-year-old. So there's a lot of diversity
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, and then
Mostly boys.
And then sometimes I remember here with another
Yes, with another
10-year-old and a 15-year-old.
Yeah, we're outnumbered.
Yeah. See,
By
By a
far.
lot.
By a lot.
But it's okay.
And that's why we need community. Because there's too many children for the amount of hands that we have.
This is lovely light rain. but
Yeah, it's very
if
nice.
You don't mean it. Tell me so I can water for real.
Well,
Yeah.
it might just be a little bit anyway. I've seen it like pour down rain for 10 minutes, and I go out there and I like move the soil aside, and like the first like quarter inch is soaked, and the rest is still dry underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, mostly I think I just need to water in these tomatoes because the soil itself is still moist.
Mhm.
But the straw, the fluffy chopped straw, oh my god. It's like a blanket for all of these because it really does raise the temperature around the plants.
Mm.
It's very insulative and it acts like a little
Mhm.
insulated coat.
I like our straw bale homes,
I'm excited
future
to see how peppers
homes.
do here. 'Cause the peppers I've tried growing up this far north just never work well.
I really
in the
like-
soil.
I really
gonna
like Keith's
try
idea
them
with
this
the
year
bottles.
in the hoop house, and hopefully they
Yeah.
like it hot. But Keith has already started to put some out,
Uh-huh.
and it's funny because peppers really need that heat to produce good fruit.
Mhm.
But as plants, they're very hardy,
Mhm.
and they're actually honestly less delicate when it comes to frost than tomatoes
Mhm.
are.
Oh, really?
So
Interesting.
you can put them out, and they're like, "I'm good, I'm okay." They just won't do anything. They'll just hunker down and survive because they're survivors.
Yeah, all right.
So it's funny, but it's like, no, if you want them to thrive, they really ought to be, but you put tomatoes out a little early and they're like, "Oh, I burnt off a limb." Like, The peppers are just like, wuss. Yeah, that's how I imagine. One day I'll write a children's book and I'll
Yes.
anthropomorphize all the vegetables.
Yes.
All the
Yes.
plants.
I've always wanted to do. I think we should do a kids book. I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah,
I
when
like
was-
writing.
When I was a kid, I thought I was gonna write kids books because I wrote kids books when I was a kid.
Okay, well, this is happening. Great.
should
We're all in on
definitely
it.
do this.
Okay. Permaculture kids books. I love it. On that note, we need to get this baby to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been great chatting with you, as always.
Yeah, we'll definitely have
Thanks
more
for chasing me
conversations.
down. I know it took a little while, but
We're all a bunch of squirrels here,
Yeah.
and we
completely
do what we do.
because we're the same way. You might take
it's spring, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
spring on the farm.
You might
Yeah.
need to chase around some gardeners, but
Yeah,
It's
we're happy
fine.
to sit in the garden and just have a conversation that we can share with all our friends around the world.
Fellow gardeners. Great.
I'm gonna go put some zinnias in the ground.
All right.
All right, friends. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Before we go, we're going to share what we're calling a forest echo, which is something that's been inspiring us lately. It might be a song or a book or a poem or a quote. And it might be original and it might be a cover. So this week it's the song When Will I Learn by Rob Ricardo. Guess I forget that I've got all the answers, and I forget that I've got all I need. Guess I forget that the path it isn't easy, and what I seek is already in me. When will I learn that I've got this? When will I learn to trust the process? When will I learn? When will I learn that I've got this? I've got this. When will I learn? should trust the process. When will I learn that I've got all I need? When will I learn that I'm already free? When will I learn that I've got all I need? When will I learn that I'm already free? When will I learn that I've got all I need? When will I learn that I'm already free? Thanks for joining us in the forest. If you felt a spark, share this episode and leave a review. It helps grow the mycelial network.
Follow our journey on Facebook and TikTok at Soulfire Forest. And until next time, stay rooted and radiant.